Okay, here we go again. Hey, I've got something new today. It's kind of a let's say an extended version of one of my previous videos. And that previous video is called "Failing and Following America's Demise, Selfish and Greed." Um, so today I'm going to read Matthew 20 and put that into total context of what's happening here in America, and it's been happening for a while now. You hear me say this a lot. I really look into the 70s as a start, but everything really started to play out in the 80s and since then. Um, I'm going to cover a different angle on this today and place my opinion. Okay, because if you've watched any of my videos, I'll tell you whether something's opinion or it's scriptural. Now, I'm going to base this opinion on scripture and how it relates to end times. Okay, so let's get on with this. All right, Matthew 20, verse 1. And I'm not going to go through and tell you each verse. I'm just going to read it all the way through 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. Now, when he agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace and said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you. So they went. Again, he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour and did likewise. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing idle, and he said to them, why have you been standing here idle all day? And they said to him, because no one hired us. He said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you will receive. So when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first. And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. Now let me get this. Okay, so we always said this in engineering that, yeah, we work half days. Well, we didn't work 4 hours a day. A half a day of 24 is 12. So we work 12 hours a day. Well, that's what it's talking about here. It's talking about 12 hours. Okay. So you're talking about people who were hired in the 11th hour only worked for an hour, and they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more, and they likewise received a denarius. And when they received it, they complained against the landowner, saying that these last men have only worked an hour, and you made them equal to us who have borne the burden and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Do you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go away. I wish to give to the last man the same as you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is it evil because I am doing good? So the last will be first and the first last, for many are called, the few are chosen. Now, Jesus, you know what? I got cut off here. I didn't write 20 down. Well, gosh, what good is that? What good is that? So let's just pop open the Bible here. So now Jesus, going up to Jerusalem, took his 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, behold, we are going. That's what I hate about this. We are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests, and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles who mock and scourge to crucify, and third day he will rise again. Okay, and then when we get into the mother of Zebedee and all that. Okay, so here's the thing. And when we look at verses 15 and 16, where it says, where they're complaining, and the landowner says, is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things, or is your eye evil because I'm good? Okay, folks, this is playing out today. Everybody wants to tell you what you can do with your stuff. Look at what's going on with the people, and they're talking bad about these billionaires and how they're making all this money and blah blah. This is nothing but evil, jealousy and enviness over somebody that went out and is making money. But not only is he making money, they're creating jobs, and they're creating an economy. They're making things good. Okay, if you want that, then you go out and do it. Okay, you can't tell somebody what to do. It's so evil. So let me look back again. I said this earlier. Let me look back at when I feel some of the wage issues started to arise. Now, I was still in high school, and I was working, and my parents were working. And so I really started to see this flourish more in the 80s, but really it started in the 70s, and that is this women's lib. Okay. And here's a point of what it was about. Okay. The main issue was equal pay, an equal job, and educational opportunities, ending sex-based wage gaps, job discrimination, and barriers to men's fields or higher education. In the U.S., this included enforcement of existing civil rights provisions in later Title IX, 1972, which barred sex discrimination in federally funded education, which major effects on sports and admissions. Okay, I can go into UK and stuff, but I'm not going to go into all that the global thing. I live here in the United States. This is about the United States, but this has gone on pretty much in major Western countries. Okay, so let me first off tell you that I agree and I disagree with part of this movement. Okay, now I want you to know that part of this movement also had to do with a woman's right to her own body. In other words, abortion. Okay, that right there should tell you what this movement is about. It's not a good thing, and it hasn't been a good thing. So the question that comes up is that, well, should a woman get equal pay for doing the same exact, and I mean exact, I don't mean close to, I mean the exact same jobs, as long as that is what she was hired to do. There's women that's doing the same exact job as a man, but that's not what she was hired to do. Okay, we're talking about this is what they were hired to do. It's the exact same job. My answer is yes. And here comes the but. There are jobs that women should not be doing. A perfect example for me is, I don't believe a woman's place is in a battlefield. I don't believe women should be in that battle. I don't believe that women should be police officers, going after criminals that are much stronger than them, and they can be just out-muscled. Okay, there's just some things I don't believe a woman should be doing. Now, God created man equal. This is an idea that all humans share equal inherent dignity, moral worth, and natural rights because they are created by God and God's image. Not that they are identical in abilities, outcomes, roles, or status. Now, this is where the world comes in and they say it's all equal. It's not, folks. Because women are now doing what I would consider a man's work has created problems with men not providing for the family. We hear this all the time about how men are taking off and they're leaving the family and blah. Folks, there's something missing here. Could this be what's missing? That men are not being able to provide for the family because now the woman is? Okay, it's a reversed problem here. And when you look at who wears pants in the family now, I'll be right out there in front when I hear many men for like 30 years saying the same thing. Happy wife, happy life. Well, who's wearing the pants? Okay. This also corresponds with the laborers who were hired first, who received the same pay as the laborers who worked for an hour, and how they complain. We still have women complaining about how much they're getting paid. Did you not accept that job for the money that you're getting? If you did, then don't complain. And you may be worldly, and there's probably a good excuse. There really isn't, but especially as a Christian, to be complaining about this, you got to get over that. Okay. Then, and I'm going to get into sports here because sports is probably one of the most guiltiest and wide known things for everybody to see, because it's on TV and on the news and everywhere you go. We see this with the WNBA and other women's professional sports, but mainly the WNBA. They actually have a slogan that says, pay us what you owe us. That's their slogan. Yet they signed a contract and getting paid what they agreed to. It's funny. How about we say, well, you're not performing what we paid you for, so we want to cut your wages. Nah. See, it's got to be a two-way street here. Now, folks, the average pay in the WNBA right now, and I had to look some of this stuff up because I just had no idea it was this high. For 2026, the average pay is around $580,000 to $600,000 a year. And they're complaining, which is more than some people that have PhDs and master's degrees. And certainly those kind of wages are in the top 10% in the USA. And yet they just complain for more. But if you have seen a game or maybe even highlights, those stands aren't even close to being full. And the one thing is about women's professional sports in history, it's never been a real marketable thing. Now, the WNBA, and they've also found now the WNBA seems like they've got enough sponsors, enough donators, and enough TV revenue that they can, they can hold off for a while. But as long as they keep wanting more and more and more and more, eventually some of these sponsors, and especially when you see what's going on the court this day and age, they're gonna lose viewers. If we want to watch, what's the martial arts mixed MMA or something, we will watch that. Okay, some of the stuff on the court is starting to be more of a physical and violent than just playing basketball. Okay, well, since we're talking about sports, let's dive into men's sports. So I have been a avid football fan, passionate avid football fan since the 60s. Okay. But remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, for a player to make $1 million or more was just, wow, that was just unheard of. And now we have players making $64 million a year. Ticket prices back then were no more than $10, and now those same tickets are $300 each. You can now pretty much watch any game on TV, usually, NFL Sunday Ticket or MLB TV or something, and you can watch your team in whatever game you want, but you got to pay for it. Here's the problem: because of how much money the NFL brings in annually, everybody wants a piece of that pie, and it's a multi billion-dollar industry. Yet every year players are sitting out because their $5 million contract they signed and accepted is not valid. But it was good enough before, but now that they are more highly rated than when they first signed that contract, and now they're complaining that they should get more, and the other guys, and this just happens in most of your professional sports, not just the NFL. This, folks, will eventually break itself at some point because they are pricing fans out of the stadium with season ticket prices well over $5,000 a seat, and is why you're seeing a lot of these new stadiums building all these luxury suites for corporates and stuff like that, because now they're the only ones that are able to afford that level of seats. Most of your average people, just especially below average, can't afford to go get season tickets. So then, folks, there is the corporate workforce where people just want more and more and more. Now, folks, I'm a little bit guilty of that. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little bit guilty of that. Now, the one thing is, for me at least, it's never been all about the money. Do I want money? Yeah, I want money. It's what helps me live. And I've always wanted to be able to retire and live on some river or waterfront, or maybe even a log cabin in the woods or something, and have that dream. So you got to put away from that. So it gets to the point where, and I've seen this in the workforce in engineering. I can't say it for any other types of jobs, but I'm sure that it's really the same. Everybody wants that pay raise. Okay. And it gets to the point where if that expectation of that raise doesn't come through, now, hey, maybe the company didn't have as good a year as that they had, and so people aren't going to get their bonuses, their expected pay raises. And now, because of that, people either want that pay raise, or they're going to leave for another job that will pay them more. And then this happens until you get to the point where corporate doesn't want to pay higher wages and terminates higher wages, the senior personnel, to manage the lower echelon wage earners. Okay. I got to that point in my life, but not because I was holding out or I went from job to job and I worked contract. Okay. And yeah, I did. I went to the highest bidder. I didn't hold out, and I didn't complain. I just said, you know what, since there's no more corporate America as far as engineering is concerned, I'm just going to go out and make the most I can, because that's my retirement plan after watching my other retirement money go away. So then, again, let me come back to this. Both people and corporate are guilty of complaining about pages or not paying true value. But still, folks, if you accept the job, you accept the pay that comes with it. Okay. And there's something that's called stability. If you can get that, then hang on to it, because hey, I had to work corporate because every time I got on with a permanent job with the company, something would happen. The market, hey, I remember back in 2001 after 9/11, the market just crashed, and then back in the real estate market back in 2006, 2009, excuse me, that crash, and it creates instability, and it's hard. So if you get that, hold on to it, because it's worth the money. We also have people complaining about working low-paying jobs and high cost of living areas. This makes no sense to me, because if you complain about your wages working at McDonald's but want to live at the beach, folks, research. If you're going in debt, making what you're making, research where you can afford to live and live better and move to that place. Hey, sometimes you don't get the sunny beaches and the great weather and stuff like that. But let me tell you, I did the same thing when I left Southern California and went up to Washington. I'm a sun guy. That's why I live in Arizona now. But sometimes you don't get what you want, but you got to learn how to be content with what you got and make that happiness happen for you, no matter where you're at. Places don't make you happy. You should be able to make that place happy. Okay. And that starts with you and what's in here. Okay. You have the freedom to move, but some people just want to complain and not resolve that issue. And that's a problem too. Now, I want to get into something here real quick, and it's this is number 2 of something that's been going on for quite a while now, and it's kind of a 2-part series on this because it involves a couple of different aspects in this, and that's childcare. Okay, that the advocation for childcare. This is part of that women's lib movement. Okay, this is the second. There's a lot of other parts of this, but I'm keying in on these 2 parts. I might do a part 2 on this only because there are a lot of parts to this. And this one here goes deeper than just wage complaints. Okay, the childcare that they were seeking was free or community controlled 24-hour nurseries, child care centers, so mothers were not confined to unpaid domestic labor and could work or study. Now, folks, these words sound like it's no big deal, but we have to look at these 3 words: unpaid domestic labor. In other words, housewife. All right, replace those 3 words with 1 word: housewife. They weren't getting paid to do housework, to be a housewife. And so they wanted to be out of that confined environment so they could go to work, study, work, whatever. Okay. Now, real quick, this point is why children have declined in values, because mom is no longer taking care of the home and the kids while dad is out working and being the provider as he's supposed to. You know, that's a man's job, just like our Father in heaven provides us and uses the earthly dad to provide for the family. The family unit since then has been deteriorating more and more and more. Some of this is a combo of having women having to work due to the cost of living, which hasn't helped the economy at all and has just really flooded the market with so many employees that drives down wages. Now, go back to what I was saying before, the cost of living. Okay, if you can't make it where you're at, you need to look at where you can make it. Okay, and this is a problem that I saw back in the 80s, and I saw it right within my own family. They said, well, we just love it here too much. We love the beaches, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, and the sun, and blah, blah, blah. And so they were willing to sacrifice their family home and how it was run for the sake of their environment. I don't need to say any more about that. I'm sure there's been other families that have done this and it's gone wrong. Boy, I'm getting some crap in my throat and it's hard to talk. But it's flooded the market. It's flooded the market and it's driven down wages, because when you got an overwhelming number of people out on the job market, when there's a good selection of people, this drives down wages, as opposed to if there's 10 jobs open and there's only 5 people to fill it, hey, those 10 jobs are fighting over the 5 that can do it. So, and that drives up wages. Okay, see how that works? Then there's just people who want more money and work, not out of necessity, but out of the sheer desire for more money. And usually with this type of character, it's never enough. And I have even heard these people complain about how hard they had to work for their money. Look, folks, you're paid to do a job. You know what the job entails. Work, make your money, go home, be happy, smile, laugh, provide for your family. Go out and have some fun. Go out and grab a pizza, a movie, whatever. Okay. My ex-wife and I were very fortunate that while we both worked, even though we didn't have to, our kids went to their grandparents' house, not some daycare where nothing related is there to them. People actually complain about the expense of childcare. And this is so selfish, because even the people in the daycare need to make a living as well. And it's not like they're making a whole lot of money. But friends, I'm going to end it there, because this can go into many different areas. All I'm trying to do is capture here a nationwide and probably even global. The same thing that has happened in Matthew 20 is a major widespread cancer that surrounds us all in these end times. You know, go back and read Matthew 20 verses 1 through 17. I mean, this is exactly what's going on, and it's another sign. If you've seen my video, it's all these things. Well, this is a sign, another sign of all these things. It's an attitude, and the attitude is not really a godly attitude. It's anti, right? It's not Christ-like. It's anti-Christ-like, as I like to say, because I believe one thing: you're either pro-Christ or you're anti-Christ. You're one or the other, and hopefully you're one of those ones that are pro-Christ, and that you've accepted Christ as your Savior. And I guarantee you this: you may be a whiner and a crier and a complainer, but if you really pick up your feet and walk with Christ, these things would not be named on you. Now, it may take a while. I also put another video up on here that says, I forget what it's called. It says it takes time, and what it's about, it takes time for people to. Sometimes it takes longer than others for you to walk correctly. Okay, just like when you were a baby. Some people walked and they were 5 months old. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds good. And some kids don't walk until they're a year and a half old. It's the same thing with being a Christian. Sometimes it takes people longer than others. We all have different capabilities. We all have different abilities. We're not all created equal in every way. Okay, this is a worldly attitude. When we hear this, everybody's created equal. That's what they wanted. They want to put everybody at the same level. You're going to eat that. You're going to eat that. No, some people don't want to be a vegetarian. Okay, myself, do I love vegetables? Yes, I love vegetables. Do I love that beef brisket with a hot link on it with some barbecue sauce and jalapenos? You're dang right I do. In fact, you know, that sounds good right now. But the thing is we're not all equal. And if you're a Christian right now, then quit putting everybody at the same level you are. Don't judge them because they're doing something that you don't do. Okay? This is a problem that I see in Christians today. They're too busy pointing the toothpick in their brother's eye, but they got a plank in their own. Quit doing that. Hey, if you go to your brother and you say, hey, look, man, you know, I don't know if anybody's told you this or not. I mean to say this in a loving form, but you know that, you know, seeing that other lady while you're married is just really not a good thing. And I hate to see you misrepresent Christ. Okay. I hope you get that right. And I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you right now if you want me to. We'll bring some other people over. We won't even have to tell them while we're praying, but we can pray for you. Okay. If he rejects you, you move on. But part of the attitude with today, and even in the Christian world, it's hard to talk with people to say, hey, look, you're doing something wrong. I was perfect example. I was dating a Christian lady about 13 years ago. And there was a couple of times we went to an outdoor jazz concert at night. And she wasn't a real big eater. She would just pick at things, but she would get a couple glasses of wine in her, and then she was falling down. We were walking out to the parking lot, and there was a cop parked about, no, I don't know, about 20 yards from where we were walking, and she just falls down. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get pulled over. And then on the last occasion, we were in another establishment. I was smoking a cigar, and we were wine testing and stuff. And as we were walking out, she walked right into a display, which was not in the way of the door. It was off to the side. She walked right into it, almost knocked it over. It was very embarrassing. And I immediately drove her back to her house, and I told her, I said, I don't want any more of this, because that's not right with me. And I'm this is like 2 times now that you've embarrassed me like that. And I can't do that. It's wrong. So, but the attitude is, well, who are you to judge me? Okay, folks, this is the attitude that we even have to deal with in the Christian world. And it's just wrong. If somebody calls you out for something doing wrong, and you're doing it and it's wrong, just accept it and get yourself right. It's love. Now, some people don't do it out of love, and that's a whole different story. But we all got to stop this. We got to stop this complaining. It's hard, folks. It's hard to live in this time, because we live in such an evil and corrupt and societies that just love sin. They love evil. They love everything that's bad, and hardly anything that's good. They're lovers of money. They're lovers of themselves. This is written in end time prophecies in the Bible. Revelation talks about that. Okay, how men are lovers. The people are lovers of themselves. People are so stuck on themselves, and everything is about themselves. Their life, their job, their car, their house. It's nothing about them. That's not the way I grew up in America. We grew up where we cared about our neighbors. I mean, I remember people going over to the neighbor's house next door and saying, on a holiday or something, stores weren't open, by the way, and they ran out of butter, and they needed a cup of butter. I mean, I remember people going next door to neighbors' houses and borrowing a stick of butter. That stuff just doesn't happen anymore. Our communities are being torn down and shred down, and it's done on purpose. Now, as we see Sharia law and the Islam coming in, they're coming in and just taking full force on this. Okay, so pray about this, because it's this complaining and the money and this and that is just tearing down our society that was once one of the greatest societies in the history of this world. Keep praying. Pass this video along. It was made to pass along. If I'm wrong on my opinion, I don't mind being wrong. But we'll try to make a part 2 of this, and maybe we can dive in a little bit deeper in some other areas that this is going on. And I still want to get into the child thing and what's going on. So that might be the next video. But anyway, I pray. I notice a lot of you are liking and loving the videos. You're sharing it with others. That's great. It's great to be a blessing, because that's what these videos are for. I'm just trying. God is just pouring out His word and blessings into me, and I just want to be a reservoir that just I can't hold in the blessings, and I have to pour it out to you. And I pray that I'm blessing you with these words, okay? Because it is God's word, and there's a lot of my opinion in there too. Of course, I say that, but anyway, be blessed. Have a wonderful and blessed day. And as I always say, God loves you, and so do I. Blessed be my beloved